and Breakdowns.
Welcome back to the Chill Sounds and Breakdowns podcast. We have another great episode, and we're back at home base, and I'm happy because I'm in my space and area. And also, I guess I need to bring attention. I'm wearing some fest. I don't know what I can't talk right now. It is fine. We're getting used to it. But it's episode 88, and this one should be out on Halloween, which should explain all this. And today we have Bailey here, who thank you so much for participating. First of all,
thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'm honestly super stoked that you're here because what I was actually just talking to Sierra like out there was like, it feels like, for me, from my perspective, you came out of nowhere, and then all of a sudden I see you everywhere doing like a lot of work. So like I kind of just want to know like how you got started.
So music photography is weird. There's not a lot of information out there on how to get started, really. Mm-hmm. You just kind of have to figure it out. And there's a lot of gatekeeping. So if you ask someone, a lot of times they'll be like, hey, just figure it out. But Whiskey Myers, actually, his tour photographer, Chris Poge, I just happened to send him a message on Facebook one day. I don't even know why. And he was like, yeah, call me real quick. And I was basically just asking like general questions. And he talked to me on the phone for like 3 hours and gave me a basic rundown on like what to do, how to submit, like to get on with publication, to build my portfolio, so on and so forth. Gave me a photo pass to the Whiskey Myers show in Dallas. Yeah, like, didn't even know this guy. It was so cool. And obviously, I'd never shot a concert before with a photo pass. So I had no idea, like, what access you had with a photo pass. Yeah. So I'm, like, on the stage and getting yelled at by security. It was great. But, yeah, it was super cool, like, just having another creative be willing to, like, offer any help he could. So I feel like I kind of try to do the same thing now, like, where I'm at. But you have to have a portfolio, and so a lot of it's like free work, but I like going to concerts, and I just reach out to bands all the time and try and keep it consistent. And then whenever I got on with a publication, it was way easier to stay busy. But for a while, I was just cold calls, basically trying to build up my portfolio, gain some experience, try some new stuff out, get a little artsy, figure out what my style was. So now I hope that if you see one of my photos, you know it's my photo. Yeah, it's one of the biggest things. I mean, first, you addressed a few things there, but no, it's okay. Gatekeeping information, like in this space, is very interesting to me, and there's that really like interesting like way of perspective of looking at things of like, oh, this is, if I tell somebody like how I got here, then I can't do it any longer, or it's gonna hinder like me doing it. And it's such a like, personally, it's such a toxic way of thinking for yourself, because I feel like it alienates you from all these like creatives around you and like collaborative efforts that you will run into and will like benefit from later. But it's that, I feel like it's that like starvation mentality where it's like there's not enough, or a famine mentality is what it is, where there's not enough like to go around. And I think there's a lot of fear and like people thinking that someone's going to do it better than them. And this may sound, I could be totally wrong, but I mean, if you're worried about someone doing better than you, then you need to work harder. Yeah. I mean, if you're worried that in sharing something that you figured out with someone else to help them be better is going to damage your role that you're on, then I mean you need to figure your own shit out, because that's and I feel like crazy. I mean, it's very arrogant to think that like what you are doing is all your own, because it's bullshit. Like you got what, like your style of doing this from your inspirations, or who you were copying at first, or who you were mimicking to learn how to get a style. Like that's the only way to get your own style. You just don't create it out of thin air. You end up, I mean, the way I relate to it is with like music. I used to, when I used to be in a band, you can tell like earlier songs that I was like, oh, they were written exactly like this band, or like this vocalist, or I was singing like these parts, and I could pull them. And it took a lot of that before I figured out, oh, this is how, like,
these parts that I took from everywhere else fit into like the style that I can create for myself and call it my own, you know. But the other thing, if you're afraid that someone's gonna do it better than you, then just get better. Like you should be getting better at the same time. So and it should inspire that. It should inspire that healthy like competition of like, it inspires you to get better. And I find the people that don't have that sort of circle around them of people in that same creative space as you stay stagnant, because I feel like that's happened to me in times where I'll stay away from people who understand like what I'm doing, and whatever I'm doing seems impressive, like because like nobody kind of knows what it takes to do it. But then when I hang with a lot of like creatives and stuff like that, I realize like, I need to be doing a lot better. Like these people are pushing, like, and that's why I like having the people that I have around me, because yes, I do notice when I'm like, I could have done this better. Or I've even had instances where I see like people copy some of the stuff that I'm doing, and I'm like, it's instead of it being like, that's annoying or whatever, I'm like, that's cool. I'm like, because that's the game. You know what I mean? Like you find stuff that works for other people and you figure out how to build it for yourself. And that's like when I figure out the things that I'm doing the same thing. Like we're all just trying to learn and get together. But yeah, that feeling of like I am not going to share information for fear of like it's going to render me useless or something, or someone's going to pick them over me. You know, it's just a weird mentality.
Well, and I get it to an extent, because like there's some people out there, and I was that person at one point too, so I'm not going to shit on anyone for it, but I mean, there's people out there that have no like motivation within themselves to figure that stuff out, and they will just ask someone else and ask them all the questions they possibly can instead of like putting in the effort. So I completely get it. But like Justin Rose, James Kaufman, Zach Burns, like I can't count how many times I've messaged them and asked them like, hey, how'd you do that? Or how do I do this? And they're like always just willing to help. And creatives like that, like, are so cool to like be able to call my friends now, because I've shot with them a couple of times. I've been around them, got to know them, but they were offering that to me before they even knew who I was. Wow. And those, I like want to be that way. I have people ask me questions a lot, just because I have grown a following really fast. But I mean, I don't ever want to feel like I'm blowing someone off, or that I think that I'm better than them, or whatever it may be. But I'm also really confident in my work too. So, I mean, I'm willing to share how I got to shoot a concert every night of the week, you know? But I mean, it's supposed to be a community, and it's not.
And there's a balance to it of like, yes, I will offer stuff to someone who asks, but then there's that other asking where it's like, I want you to do this for me and figure it out for me, and then that way I can just take advantage of that. Versus coming from a place of like learning, you know what I mean? And this is, I bring up the story a lot of when I was starting to I started like a vlog channel like years ago, and this is a story what happened with Zaylen from Dispositions, and I asked him like, because he was like, he's shooting, and like he's shooting some cool stuff, and I'm like, what camera? And I'm like, what camera are you using? And like I want to get like one, and then I was asking like, is this what I need? I want to do this stuff, and it was a lot of explanation, and he gave me a little bit of information, but he was like, you're better off looking it up yourself. And again, like it took me a while to be like, that's the best like advice I ever got, because then I spent like hours looking up exactly what I was going to use, and the camera that I would have gotten if I just copied Zaylen and took his would have been way too much camera for what I needed, and it would have been wasted. You know what I mean? That's what, when we were talking about, I'm like, that's what I mean. Like, and that's even them not giving me what I wanted. I go, the advice still helped prove to myself, like, I either want this or I don't. You know what I mean? Because if you don't want it, it ends right there and you're done. It's like, okay, well, they're not wanting to help me. If I wouldn't have done anything after that, then it just proves like, okay, I really wasn't in it. For sure. But if you're one person that's like trying to learn and you are asking these people, it's really, I think it's like really easy to just determine those, like that motivation behind somebody. It's like, okay, I'm actually like, I just need help like with this, and it would be good. But that's, I mean, it's good that you're trying to do the same thing for like people who are coming up to you and do that. Because you have been, I think, like rapidly gaining a following, but I think your work has been showing that. And it's just like little things. I mean, I don't know if this will be weird, but like I've seen you like at shows and stuff where you're like shooting a band, and then like it's the changeover and you're already editing pictures to be up. Like I remember like 'cause you worked on one of like our shows the first time that we met. I guess that's when you were trying to just like shoot shows to get more stuff in your portfolio. But there was stuff up during the show, like was edited photos were coming out.
Yeah.
And it's this like quick turnaround thing of you. I don't know, to me that was like so impressive. Like it just showed like a level of like just like this work ethic that was like nuts.
So I guess like for me, the way that I see it is if it's a band that doesn't know me, like if I'm not there for them, I don't have a relationship with them, I'm not one to bother them at the show. Like I didn't pay to be there. There's people that did pay to be there to see them, and I don't really want to take time away from that. But a lot of bands, whenever they get off stage, they'll go check their mentions to see the video of their performance, the photos, whatever. So that's a good way for me to connect with them so that they're able to get the photos that I took.
See, that's smart.
So, I mean, I can tag them in a post and they may or may not see it, but when it comes to their mentions, I mean, they're going to tap it and they're going to tap through it. Oh, that's a cool photo. And then they'll message me, hey, can I have that photo? So I've just made a lot of connections that way. Just in a sense of like being able to give them the product, I guess.
Okay.
Because I mean, there will be bands that will get me in, or now, especially shooting for publication, like I only know the management of the one band that got me in. So the other bands may never see those photos unless I make them see those photos. So, I mean, that's just kind of my thought process on it. But I also really like the end result. Like that's my favorite thing about it. It's just like the editing and the artsy part of it and making sure that I got that shot. So when I see the shot, I'm like, I want everybody to see the shot like right now. So it's probably my downfall in all honesty, because it looks so much better after I get it on my computer and get it edited like in full resolution. But it's just cool. Like it's, especially with touring bands, it's newsworthy really. Like these people are in our city for one day and then they're off to the next. And if I get to post about it the same day or a couple hours after, like it's like a news situation for me. Like everybody at the show is going to go look for my crowd shots and find themselves in the crowd. And I like that. Like, I think it's cool. Just to be able to kind of like have that feeling of, hey, like I took this for you kind of thing. Okay. So it's not really feeling like it's for me. It is, but like I love the feeling of getting to deliver it to a band. Like I've had a couple bands that have found me through that, and they're like, oh, you know, like I never like any photos of myself. Like this photo's so sick. There's like the guitarist, I think, maybe the bassist of Suicide Silence. I shot Monster Mosh. Okay. And I took one of my favorite photos ever. It's so cool. And I posted it on my story, tagged him in it. He saw it and he was like, please send this to me. I never love any photos of myself. This photo's so sick. Sent it to him, posted it on his feed like immediately. Wow. And like that's so sick. Like he loved my photo. It made him feel good about himself. Like that's so cool to me. Or like finding people in the crowd that I take good photos of, like being able to like walk up to them and say, hey, like send me a message, I'll send you the photo later. And they're like being able to just stop that feeling for them and then be able to look back at it and feel it again is so cool to me. It is really cool how concert photography, especially like in your case, how it captures like energy of shows and how you're able to feel it. And especially like if you're there and you see like the picture and it's like, oh, I remember like what this felt like. So it's being able to capture the shot, like edit it in a way of like portraying the actual like energy in the room or like in that shot in that moment. And then people who see it and interact with it are like, oh, I was there. Like, yes, it did feel just like this. Like it looked just like this. It's the same feeling I get with like concert photography and like a concert, like videography. It's like, those are the ones that I love the most, are the ones that make it capture and make it feel like it was when you were there. You know what I mean? Like it captures that energy, and people love like seeing like themselves in like a light that they're not maybe normally welcomed, you know. They're like I said, like it's like, oh, I see pictures of me all the time, I don't like them, and until you get like a few of those shots. And I've had that like as like someone who played in a band, had like photos sent and stuff like, and sometimes like, oh, like I don't like it. But then there was like the one like photographer who was like, oh my god, like I would look at myself and like I go, oh, okay, that's what I feel like when I'm up there. And I'm like, that's how I feel like. There's one picture that I have for like the longest time, and I love it, and I'm like, yes, captures exactly what I'm feeling like
what I feel like I look like while I'm up there, and like what the energy I'm putting out, and it's doesn't always happen, but it's cool that that's like a goal for you to capture for them, because I feel like it's really important to bands and even like to people in the crowd, like being able to see themselves like, oh, like having a fun time with their friends and being able to capture that memory. But you joined a publication not a few months ago now, right?
Yeah,
sort of.
I think it was in July.
Okay,
it hasn't been around for very long.
Okay. So this is Spliced, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was working at Fort Worth Camera, and there's this guy. His name's Damien. He's the one that owns the publication. He was coming in all the time, and he would just like talk our ears off about this publication he wanted to start and how much he loved music and yada yada yada. And so I just like asked him if I could shoot for him whenever he got it started. And like working at a camera store, you hear stuff like that all the time. Like you hear people come in talking about all these big dreams and they're going to start all this stuff and da 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 da. But like for whatever reason, like listening to Damien talk about starting Splice, like I knew he was going to do it. Like he just made it pretty obvious that like he wanted it to happen and he was going to work for it, and he has. But getting to shoot for it was super cool. Like I've been a huge fan of movements for like ever.
As you should be.
I love them so much. And they didn't have a Dallas date for this tour. And I drove to Austin. My check engine light was on the whole time.
Oh, no.
The whole time. I didn't care. I was like, I got approved for that photo pass, and I was like, I'm driving to Austin. If I don't make it, then okay, but I'm going to at least try. I had to get towed back, by the way.
Oh, my gosh. From Austin?
It was so worth it.
Oh, God.
It was so worth it. The show was so great. Like, their new album, there's one of the songs, it's You're One of Us Now. Every time the beginning of that song plays, like, I'm back in the photo pit. Like I get chills. Like, it's just so cool. But I, after I was done editing or after I was done shooting, I went to the Raising Cane's next door to edit. Cause there was nowhere else that was really open, and they were open till 4 a.m. next to the venue.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah. And so I'm sitting there editing, and Patrick Miranda, and Crust, they're stand-in guitar player for tour.
Yeah.
They walked in, and I like was having a meltdown. Like I couldn't put a sentence together, and they like came right up to me, were talking to me, and I'm like, okay, I need this conversation to end like right now. Like I can't. I was so stressed. I was trying really hard not to fangirl. I was like, I'm gonna be honest, you're my favorite band. I can't have a full sentence come out of my mouth right now. Like, it's just not gonna happen. But he like signed my photo pass and everything. They were so cool. And it was super weird. Yeah. There were two members of Angel Maker that walked in right after them, and they're all like meeting each other right in front of me. I'm like, is this the Twilight Zone? Like what's happening? It was crazy. But yeah, I didn't realize how easy it was to not only like get on with a publication, but like start a publication. Like watching the process of like him getting it all started, like I could have been doing this so long ago.
Oh,
like
God.
I've been like struggling to get shows, and they literally don't care like how many followers you have. They don't care how often you post. Like a lot of them don't even check if you're a publication. They're like, yeah, sure. So like, what's the point, I guess, is the weird thing. Like they just want coverage. Yeah. But I've shot like a lot of shows that I wouldn't have been able to without a publication, which is kind of crazy. So
like I saw, I mean, Monster Monster shot like the Furnace Fest. You were out there for that.
I wasn't at Furnace Fest.
Oh, you wasn't? Oh,
I wish I was at Furnace Fest. So I was gonna shoot Monster Mosh anyways. Yeah. Because I was gonna go shoot for Dispositions. I like begged Zaylin to let me shoot for Dispositions. He's like, fine, you can come. But I ended up actually getting hired on by Third String, which was like a pretty big fucking deal, because I've been like annoying Mike for I don't even know how long. Yeah. Like, please let me shoot. But I got to shoot. Zach brought me on, which was really cool. Again, their team is just so sick. But the whole festival was absolutely incredible. Like the whole thing. Every single band there was so great. It was a lot of fucking work, though.
Oh, yeah?
It was a lot of fucking work. But I do wish I went to Furnace Fest. Like, we were talking about kind of, like, capturing the energy of the show. They had Justice. I think his Instagram tag is, like, No Justice, something like that. He shoots a lot of fisheye. So fucking sick. Every single shot he puts out is so cool. Because you just get the whole fucking thing. Like, you have FOMO looking at it. Like, you wish you were there. But yeah, I've been doing a lot of stuff.
Yeah, that's definitely like one thing that's super obvious, and like what the work that you've been doing is like, I was like, it feels like almost every day I'm seeing like new photos or new something, or like another event like you're doing, or and all over, like every kind of like thing that avenue that you're exploring, which I think just only in turn like helps you work on your craft. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you learn many different things from many different situations and stuff. Like for Monster Much, that's like a whole day. Like the preparation for that must be like to be able to shoot like all day, or I mean almost all day, like and to be out there. What was that like your one of the bigger events that you've done, or till like now?
Yeah, so I've shot So What before. Not this past year, but the year before. I volunteered to get my camera in.
Yeah.
And I like did ticketing at the window for like an hour, and then I disappeared for a little bit to go shoot. I had a really terrible camera, and the photos still came out okay, so can't complain. But this past year I shot So What for Slow Pulse. I've shot them a couple times. They're amazing. But I shot for Slow Pulse, and then I just kind of hung out and shot whoever else I wanted.
Yeah.
It was fucking hot this year. It was so hot. I left at like 5 o'clock. I'm like, I don't know how the fuck y'all are doing this. This is wild.
Yeah,
like,
it took a lot. I think we had those like cooling towels like on our head the whole time, and I'm just gonna, I don't know. I just felt defeated, but I'm like, I'm gonna be here.
God, and then that pool at the state fair is just like chilling there, nice and blue. I'm like, I'm about to go swimming. Like it was so hot.
Yeah.
And they had like half the people the second day, because like a bunch of people came the first day, and it was way less the second day because of how hot it was. There were people passing out in line. Like it was crazy. Yeah,
because I think at one point like we kept going and rotating to go inside just to lay down on like the cold floor, and it was just like I'm just need to just lie down here for a second. But it was extremely hot. But yeah, even that, like, because like there's things that I wouldn't think about. Like I forgot what I ran into like the other day. I was trying to edit somewhere at a show we were hosting, and I was outside, and I was like, it's hot. And I didn't realize like my computer, like I just like went to type or something, and it's just like burning, and I'm like, oh, like that's something I wouldn't think of. But even like with your camera and stuff like that, realizing like, oh, like in certain temperatures, like batteries don't last as long, or like the camera overheats and then you can't like use it. But things like that seemed like to be nice little, not nice, but like moments where you're gonna like, it's gonna be a lesson, like where you're gonna have to learn how to think on the spot, like how do I figure this out now. But you were talking about how like in hearing about like building a publication, like you realize like how kind of simple it is doing. I don't know if you want to talk about it, but I know you mentioned something about you wanting to kind of start something new.
So I'm very I feel like I'm bipolar. I'm like 1 second I'm like, oh yeah, this is gonna be so sick, and the next second I'm like, well, will it be sick? I don't know. So with Spliced, we cover a lot of like bigger shows, but also like Damien and I have similar tastes in music, so there's a lot of shows that both of us want to shoot, but only one of us can shoot, and so I feel like both of us are kind of compromising.
Okay.
So I think it'd be cool to be able to have just another outlet for either one of us to use to shoot whatever we want.
Okay.
But I really, really, really want to spotlight like the local scene.
Yeah.
There's so many good bands that need that spotlight.
Yeah.
I mean, you can interview whoever that's been interviewed 1,500 times and asked the same questions over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Or you can interview somebody that's excited to be there and really needs the exposure.
Yeah.
That and like publication work is mostly free photos. So I'm going to go shoot Devil Wears Prada with 15 other photographers that are also shooting Devil Wears Prada just in one city.
Yeah.
And they get more free photos than they need when I could go shoot a band that actually fucking needs the photos.
Yeah.
Like, and they need the interview and they need the video and they need that shit.
Yeah.
And it's so much cooler, like, to be able to give that to somebody like that genuinely needs it. And if you're in the scene, everybody knows everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, they really do. And I didn't realize that. Like, I saw Ballista a couple times. I go to a couple other shows. They're drummers in like 7 bands.
Yeah. Robert's
all
in, like,
over the
in
place.
a ton of bands. Yeah.
And I like introduce myself to him every single time. I can't even imagine how he juggles all of that. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But they're all in like 17 different bands. There's a guitarist in Van Full of Nuns that's in a bunch of different bands. Like,
it's probably Jarrett. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Like, and so I mean, it's like, once you meet one of them, you're meeting all of them because they all talk about it. And that's really how it happened for me before publication, is just word of mouth, like just meeting people. And getting out there and shooting the opening bands and like making your name like known just by giving a shit about the bands that people don't know.
As simple as that. And it's kind of when we started like Noise Route, like it's one of the things that we were a bunch of us played in bands and then or have been just going to shows like around town for like ever. And it was very surprising to me how many people like outside and like I'm gonna say just like the regular world like don't know how amazing like their local scene is. And I talked to somebody, I don't remember their name, and I'm not shading the Fort Worth Weekly, but it was somebody who was trying to, I guess, do an interview for them, and they were like, yeah, like he's like, so what kind of shows do you? Because I know Fort Worth's just known for country, and I'm like, I'm like, wrong. I go, yeah. I go, no. There's like, I go, if you can go out there any day of the week and find like a ton of different styles of music, and you just have to like look and want to go. But the fact of like catching like those bands who are amazing and who are just gonna keep getting like amazing early on is so cool, especially because you can just know them. Like there's a lot of people that I know that I'm like, oh, they're gonna be awesome. Like they're going, like one of the bands like I'm so excited for right at the moment, like from here is it's a band called Somebody Else. It's these kids. They're super talented, super great, and I'm seeing it like happen. Like I had them on here and we were talking, and it's one of the biggest things of why this kept going, because this was a temporary gig that I was just gonna start just to promote a festival that we were throwing, again to promote local like bands. But then I realized like, oh, there's a kind of big need around for this because there's so many like talented bands. So I knew one of the problems that normally like I may have like with. It's like, oh, I might run out of people to interview. And I'm like, it's impossible. I was like, there's so many talented bands and musicians and just artists and people just doing cool stuff around town that I feel like should be highlighted. So it's on that same like level of like, like they deserve it and like they're gonna be awesome, you know what I mean? So it's kind of cool to catch them early on and have those conversations to know how I get started. Like it's that whole, going back to that whole, like every one of your favorite bands was a local band at some point. And like those are here. Like now you could be seeing one of those bands like now in your own town. Yeah.
So it's funny you say that. I also photographed Emo Night, and I don't remember the name of the band, but they're not from here. And they were playing in the Lone Star Room, and he did like a little speech in between songs, and he was like, if you can pay $20 to be at Emo Night, you can pay $20 to go see a local show. And I'm like, you're damn right. Yeah. Like, and that's the thing is, it's not even like those shows are so cheap. And they're so much more fun. Yeah. Like, I literally hate going to arena shows. They're not fun. I don't know why people go to them. I mean, well, I do. I get it. Yeah. You know their songs, whatever. But it's just so much more fun. Like, the energy and just the being in that room and getting pushed around by the crowd and, like, getting to mosh and getting to crowd surf, like, being involved with the artist on the stage, like 9 times out of 10 they're in the fucking pit with you. Like it's just so different of an experience, and like it bums me out. Like I went to Rubber Gloves a little while back, and I'd never been there in Denton. Holy shit. Like that is like a dream venue, not for a photographer. It's absolute shit to shoot there, but it is so fun,
especially inside, right? Like it's but
it's so bad, but it's just so much fun. Like the atmosphere of that building and like the true fucking grit of the bands that are on stage, like it's just so much more fun. And you may not know their music, but like if you're a music fan, you'll have a good time. Like it's just so much more of a experience when you're going to a smaller show than when you're going to a big show, unless you're at a Knock Loose show, and then you know no matter how like big the place is, it's gonna get crazy. But that's one thing I've for the longest time I was like, I'm very grateful that most of like my favorite bands I can still see them in a room like that. You know what I mean? Because I love smaller venues and just being able to interact with them, like you were saying, like interact with them, and just like the crowd is just a different feel. And like the stadium. So for example, like the last like stadium thing I kind of went to was the 1975. That, you know what I mean? So we were both there, but which was cool. Like I'm like oh I didn't know, you know, I was just going to have fun because I'm like I don't really know the 1975. Same. And we stayed for I think a little over half of the show, and it was fun. You know what I mean? It was like I was having fun, but it's like had it been like
a small room, you know, and being able to be that, cause it's a completely different experience,
Yeah.
you know, like to feel that person. Like, so for example, like we went to see, who was the band? Oh, the band Camino. They played Texas Trust.
Okay.
But Charlotte Sands opened for them. But we were like in seats, so we were like way up there. So it was like a little blop, you know what I mean? The TV screens, whatever. It's cool.
I don't
want to
watch that shit on a TV screen.
Yeah,
I can do that at home.
Like, I don't like. It wasn't the greatest. I mean, again, like I'm gonna have fun no matter where I go. But I'm like, that's not my preference. But out of, I don't know, I think it's random. But she ended up playing the State Fair, and like she was a opening act, so she was playing at 2. Yeah. And so we saw her yesterday, and we were on the barricade, not having to be anything, but it's a different interaction of you being in front of a person. That person's talking to you. She like saw my girlfriend Sierra like singing, like all the words came up and like threw a pic at her and like talk, and I'm like, but that's the interaction you get at all these small venues with like these bands that are playing it. Yeah. And it's just that energy and the people around you. I don't know. There's just something about it that I've fallen in love with, and that's why I like doing that, and that's why I wanted to be part of a group that knows how important that is. You know what I mean? Like this, I always talk about how like this scene brought me up and made me love it, and I'm like, and how it has made me open to like a bunch of like different music and types of music, and just being able to interact with people. Because sometimes it feels, I don't know, it feels less personal. Like normally at like those stadium shows, I'm probably not going to know who the person next to me is or talk to them or whatever. For sure. But like at any of these smaller venues, I end up making like a ton of friends like all the time. Very easily. For sure.
And so do you know the band No Pressure?
No.
Okay, perfect. Okay. I'm about to put you on. Okay. So do you know The Story So Far?
Yes.
Okay, so lead singer Parker Cannon, him, and then Pat Kennedy, and I don't remember the drummer's name, but they are all in other bands. Okay. They made their own band, and they did it so they can go play No Barricade shows, and they can tour and do their thing. They don't promote it. They don't have an Instagram for it. They don't do interviews, none of that shit. And they just go, and they play, and they have a great time. And so I think it was maybe a year ago I saw Story So Far. Parker didn't move on stage. He didn't do shit. He looked really unhappy to be there. Saw No Pressure at Tulips in like March, May. Holy shit. Like all over the fucking stage. Like huge energy. It was so different. It was so fun. And like I'm obsessed with that band anyway, so I was really excited to be there. But it was just so different. And like that is such a cool thing to see. Like, yeah, you can go to the 1975, and that's a little bit different than any other like big show I've seen, because like it's like watching a play. Like their whole stage design was insane. Yeah. But typically, like I went and saw Breaking Benjamin at Dos Equis. They stood there the whole time. Like I saw Ballista for the very first time. They opened up for Slow Pulse when I shot them the first time. River.
That's one to fucking see.
Is a fucking badass.
Yeah, she's
all
fucking nuts.
Over the stage. Absolutely insane. Like she was literally laying on the stage looking at me, like throwing her mic in my camera, and I'm like, I love you. You're fucking sick. Like, and I hadn't really been into that like heavy of music before. Yeah. I'll go watch Ballista any fucking day. Like River is absolutely insane, and if they get big, sick. I'll still go see them just because I know like she has that stage presence that like whether you know their music or not, you're having a good time. Yeah. No, Ballista is one of the biggest reasons why I started actually this year getting more into like the hardcore scene. And because like Ed's like been one of my friends for like ever, who's like actually that picture is from a Ballista show up there. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's okay. But the energy at these shows is unmatched in my opinion. Like the kids that go to these shows are just like losing their fucking mind, and just like the way, I don't know, it's letting go of like someone's watching me, is someone gonna think I'm dumb for like acting wild. It's none of that's there. All of that, like, I don't know, insecurity gets checked at the door, and everyone's just fucking, I'm just gonna like party and like have a crazy time. And then like the energy those most of those bands like match, like but I saw Ballista at Texas Death Fest, which was at Andy's. And people were climbing on like, there's that like that upstairs place at Andy's. People were climbing on like the railings and like jumping off like into the crowd like during the entire set. I'm like, this is nuts. Like, oh, I fucking love this like so much. But again, like Ballista's like touring, like has been to fucking Canada, like is doing a bunch of crazy shit, and yet they still come and they'll play like GROWL, or they'll play like something like these places, and it's guaranteed that it's gonna be absolutely insane. Yeah, well, and it's the same thing with Unity. Like Unity's fucking out there, like they're doing their shit, but like I saw them at Oh my God, was it the factory? They all run together. They all,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it was the studio. But they played and they weren't happy with their performance. I guess I brought it up to one of them and they were like, it was okay. Fucking sick. It was so sick.
Yeah.
It was so much fun. Crowd was so much fun. Like they literally just put on the show. Like the energy that they bring makes the crowd move. And that's the biggest thing.
That's like a big thing that sells me on a lot of bands is their live experience and their live energy.
Yeah.
Like what you were just saying about like the story so far and like No Pressure. Mm-hmm. It's like one, you can kind of feel like they look like they don't want to be here. And then the one, it's like, oh, I'm having fun. And like, even if the music isn't what like, even if I don't know it, if I can see that you are enjoying that every moment of you being on stage, like I am probably going to start reciprocating the same type of energy, even if I don't know like the music or anything. But one of the biggest ways I've become fans, like an instant fan of bands, is seeing them perform live for the first time before I've ever heard their music. But I'm seeing it, if the performance live captures me, then you've sold me and I'm your fan, like for the rest of the time. Like I'll go listen to everything before, but that's the biggest way that I get like enthralled with people is just seeing someone perform live and then like the band's just having a great time.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's insane.
Do you remember, were you there for the whole show for Colorblind?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, no, I came in with Lux South was playing.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I've never heard of them. Apparently we
yeah.
followed each other on Instagram. I like went up to them and was like, hey, do you guys need photos? Like I'm shooting for Colorblind. I can help you out or whatever. Yeah. And they're like, we follow you on Instagram. We love your work. And I'm like, okay.
Oh my God.
I don't take that shit well. Like I'm like, okay. But yeah, I was fucking floored.
Yeah.
Like they were incredible. They were so fucking good. And like, it's crazy to me that people don't fucking know about bands like that. Like, absolutely fucking insane. But again, like, I think one of my favorite things about smaller shows is you get to kind of like watch them find their success. Like, you get to be a part of it. I've told this story like a million times, but I went and watched Arm's Length. I don't remember who they opened for. They all run together. But I'd never heard them. I only knew one of their songs actually. And, in the middle of their set, the lead singer like addressed the crowd and he was like, I just want you guys to know like how sick this is to like hear you guys singing my lyrics back to me. Like we were here last year in Dallas and no one fucking knew who we were. And now we've got people wearing our t-shirts and singing our songs back to us. And like, I'm like watching this like fucking bawling. I'm like, that's so sick. Like to get to watch that shit in real time and like watch their dreams come true is so fucking cool. And like, you're literally a part of it. Like you get to say, I was at the show where this happened, you know, like that's the perk of being at the smaller shows. Like I can go to a big name band and I'm just another person in the crowd, but when you go to the smaller shows and you get to experience it with them, like it's just so fucking cool.
The one that I experienced that I didn't think I was going to see them at a venue this small, but I saw Dayseeker we had to go to Lubbock to see them at Jake's back room. And it's a back room of a restaurant bar like that they have. And it's maybe like the size of tulips, maybe. And I'm like, Dayseeker's getting up there. Like this kind of strange. Like to the fact that like I went up to the barricade very easily, and like I left and came back and was still like more than halfway close to like the crowd, like to the stage. And it didn't feel like it was sold out, but it wasn't like full all the way to the back. And seeing them perform it, I'm like, this is fucking awesome. Like, I am having the time of my life. Like, and I got to, so we went for Dayseeker and, because it was like Dayseeker, Silent Planet, and Moxie the band, which is a crazy lineup, first of all. And with Moxie, like, my girlfriend had made like custom shirts, like with them. It looked like, it looked funny, but it had the whole band on there. And they saw, like, I think when we tagged them on Instagram. So then we, like, ended up talking and stuff like that. I ended up talking to them. I was like, hey, yeah, we're supposed to be on this tour coming through town. And, like, it ended up skipping Dallas. And, like, and so does this tour. And so I ended up, like, talking to them. She's like, oh, okay. So we, like, ended up kind of making a connection to, like, I'm trying to bring you to town kind of thing. But seeing, like, them and interacting with them and still being able to interact with them in that way. Because we had a pretty decent conversation. because we're at a small place, they're at their own merch table, like hanging out. I'm like, this is so fucking cool. You know what I mean? And you don't get like a lot of these, like when you go to these bigger shows, like they don't even run their own merch stands. Like whatever the venue staff is running them.
There's some crazy ass fans though.
Yeah.
Bad Omens. Oh my god.
Oh, that shit.
Okay, so another photographer, and she also like does a lot of shit for the publication. She's like a Wonder Woman, Alex. She's obsessed with Bad Omens. She's gonna be pissed that I'm talking about this. No. I make fun of her about it all the time. But she's like genuinely like worried about going to the Bad Omens show because like bitches are crazy. Like they really are. Like they're like the super fans are like outrageous. Like even with like Parker Cannon, like that's a lot of the reason that he fucking like can't do no barricade shows because they're just fucking crazy. Like that's nuts. Like that you can't even like experience that anymore once you get to a certain level of fame, like because you're considered to be attractive. Like I don't get that. It's so weird. But yeah, no, like Bad Omens specifically, like I am unintentionally on Thirst Trap Bad Omens Twitter because my phone is listening to Alex talk about that shit all the time.
Oh my god.
So thanks. But yeah, no, it's just insane. Like to not even be able to like meet the artists anymore because of like the fear for their safety. Like at the Movement show, I got in early. They let me in for the VIP part because I had a camera. And I like watched them whenever they were done with VIP. They were about to open the doors. They like ran. They were gone. They ran to the back. And like it's just so insane like that you can't even just like meet people anymore because people are just so fucking weird.
Yeah, I was hearing a few stories. Actually, it's funny when I did the Letdown podcast, we were talking about like fan interactions, and there was like one where apparently like one of his fans sold their business and has been following the band like across the country. So like it's been like at every show, I think except for like the Europe dates or something like that. But like I was like, what? Like that's
insane.
Yeah, I was like, I'm like, that's kind of crazy. But I mean, I'm like, that's cool. I'm like, you have people that are doing that. I'm like, that's pretty awesome. And then he was talking about his interactions with like fans. He's like, yeah, I'll stay after and I'll just meet whoever I can. And we're talking like, it'll like eventually like if we keep going like the way we're going, like I probably won't be able to do that.
Yeah.
I go, but as long as I can, like I want to do that kind of thing. And I'm like, that's cool. Like that's the perspective I want from like the artists that I normally like talk to and interact with. But I do get that there gets to be a point where I'm like, well, even if you wanted to, like you can't do that at a certain point.
We're like at a day and age where everybody wants something from everybody. Like you can't just meet people anymore. They're meeting you because they want something from you a lot of times in this industry, and that's really fucking hard. Like that sucks.
Yeah. Like have you ever like seen like these or had an interaction yourself where you see somebody who's like in maybe like a not necessarily a famous person, but someone like who's in a band that's kind of like popular, or even like actors and stuff like that, and you're like, for me, I'm always like, oh, like I usually like if I have those interactions, I'll like say, if I stay in the wild, I'll like say hi, and if like they want to talk, like I'll talk a little bit, but if not, I'm like, cool, that's all I need, because I know like how often they get, it's like, oh, something, I'm like, will you take a picture, will you do this, or will you do that, and it's just that, it's like, you know what I mean, it's I don't know, it feels very transactional, and I was just like, I don't like making people feel that way.
I hated asking Patrick Miranda to sign my photo pass.
Yeah.
I hated it. We talked and he was starting to walk out the door and I was like, I have to ask and I don't want to, but like, that's so tough. Yeah. Like, cause that's all they ever do is take photos and sign autographs. Like that fucking sucks, man.
And it's kind of hard cause it's, you're not typically in a position to make an honest, genuine connection like with all those people. So it kind of sucks because it's like I have the few seconds that you get to interact with them to be like, whoa, like, will you do this? And I mean, it's kind of hard and difficult, but at the same time, I think they understand it in a way. But it's still like gotta be hard. So I always try to make those moments like as easy as possible. Or I always think I'm like, do I really need this? Like, or like, am I just just to get a picture with somebody or just to get like something. But there are some of those where I'm like, oh, this is like a person like I need to talk to, and I like am not gonna be stopped. You know what I mean?
That's so hard for me. I am so socially awkward, so a lot of that goes into me not introducing myself to bands or anything. But I also, like I said, like I don't want to bother them because they're gonna be bothered the entire time they're there. So I mean, that's a lot of the reason that I do like the previews on my stories, and just like message them on Instagram, because I mean, if my intention with them is for us to have a business relationship, I'm going to leave them the fuck alone. Like, this is what I do. Here you go. Let me know if you need anything, kind of thing. Because it's just not like you said, there's not really an opportunity to like have a genuine connection with somebody when it's blatantly obvious that I have a camera in my hand and that I'm there to shoot your show. Like, it's just hard for me.
It is interesting because I've had to learn that a lot in the past like 2 years. The whole aspect of like networking and figuring that out, and realizing that it's just those conversations that you end up having with a band at a show, and and I was like, oh, that's what networking is. But it used to be like, oh, I need to present what I'm offering to do like now, and I didn't like it because it came off as like, oh, I'm just talking to you because I want something, I need something, or I want you to do this like with me. And I end up just starting conversations with them, and then at the end I'll be like, hey, like I'm interested in doing this with you, but like when you got time we'll talk about it later. And then but really trying to see if I can create that genuine like connection before anything kind of proceeds further, because again, like I want it to be genuine and real, and a lot of that stuff is like for people to be like on the podcast and stuff like that is like, yes, I would love to talk to you, but I also need to make sure that we can actually like have a genuine conversation, and I'm just not just bringing you on because I'm like, oh, you have some sort of status, or it's gonna look good or something like that. I'm like, because that's one thing I love about this is that I have complete control of that, and everybody that's been on here is somebody that I want to talk to. And I'm like, cool. I'm like, that's how it is, and that's how I try to make it feel for everybody, because it's genuinely true. Like everybody on here, like I'm genuine fans of, and it's cool, and I'm like, it's fun, and that's the way I want them to feel like all the time, instead of like those just constant. I don't know, like when I played in band, the joke was like after every show, like you would get like good set, bro, and the people who like didn't really give a fuck about it kind of thing, and it's fine. You know what I mean? You don't have to like everything. Music is subjective, you know what I mean? And art is subjective. But yeah, when those moments where I can take a little extra second to be like, oh, like I genuinely liked this specific thing about what you did, and I feel like a lot of those like bring up. I don't know, it just makes it feel like you were actually paying attention to those people, and it must feel nicer, because I know when it gets brought up to me, like I'm like, oh, that's kind of nice. I also don't know how to act either. I'm just like, oh, cool, thank you.
Oh my god, yeah, you and girlfriend came up to me at the Colorblind show, and you were telling me like that you followed me on Instagram, and I immediately was like, this is so uncomfortable. I don't know why I can't handle it very well. I do not take compliments well. I'm confident in my work, but when people like tell me that they love my work or tell me that they follow me on Instagram, I'm like, okay. Yeah. Like, I don't know what to say.
And that was actually like, it's funny because that's my second attempt at trying to talk to you.
Are you? Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh no.
No. You didn't.
Was I an asshole?
No.
Okay.
I was like, you were working, and it was the Hill of Sun show, and you were so we I think Origami Button just played, and then I was like, oh, like, and I was like, I should talk to you, like, one, I mean, we've talked before or whatever, but I was like, oh, I just wanted to again walk up to you and like compliment on all the work that I had seen it, but I'm like, nah, you're working, I'll talk to you later about it. And it sounds like I need to say something, because then I get in my head, I'm like, do they know that like I'm not ignoring you, like I want to talk to you, but I don't know how, because I get weird and all, and some people like don't. Sometimes they'll be like, how do you like socially awkward, like still, like when you do this and you talk to people like all the time? I was like, yeah, but I'm at home, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's easy like one-on-one, but in the wild, I've been trying to get better at that. Like it is, one is like if you, what do people call it? Giving people their flowers or whatever. But like telling people like if I like something, be like, oh cool, like hey, I like this
for sure.
And words of encouragement, because I just know how much like how a little can go a lot in that in that aspect of just somebody saying like, cool, you're doing a good job, and just being like, all right, cool, and how much that means to people. That's why I bring up a lot how like I don't normally tend to talk down on like anything, even if I don't like it, because if I don't like something, it just means it's not for me most of the time. And I'm like, everybody else, like, they're gonna find like their demographic. So I support so many people, but I don't necessarily like all like the stuff. But I'll be damned if I'll be the one that's like gonna tell you to stop doing something.
For sure.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Because you can always push further, you know.
Well, there's always room for improvement, and we're always improving. Specifically, a lot of the bands that you like now used to fucking suck. So but I mean, like with me specifically, like my Instagram in March had 200 followers. I was not consistent. I didn't do shows all the time. I didn't like post very often. And then one day I was like, okay, I'm going to reach out to bands. I'm going to make a list of bands that I'm going to reach out to. I'm going to set a schedule. I'm going to go shoot as much as I fucking possibly can. I'm going to build my portfolio. I'm going to get better. And I did get way better. My photos now, in comparison to March, I archived a lot of shit, okay? It was really fucking bad. It was really bad. It's not bad, but I've improved significantly. And I mean, I've gained, 1,400 followers.
Wow.
Just from being consistent. Like, literally just from posting as much as I possibly can, going to shows, meeting people. And, like, I will say going to concerts all the time has really brought me out of my shell, because before, like, this I would have told you no. Yeah. I wouldn't have been able to do this. But, like, going to shows, especially if I'm, like, there by myself, if I'm the only photographer, like, you can't tell me shit. Like, I don't feel like I have to work around anybody. Like, I'm just kind of doing my own thing. But I will almost always get somebody that's like, hey, I follow you on Instagram, or hey, what's your Instagram, or whatever. And those conversations are super cool to me, just because, like, I've met a lot of people that are like, I really want to get into this. Yeah. How do you do it? And I was that person, and that's so fucking cool. Like, to be able to, like, help that. Yeah, like, that's so sick. That was me at So What, like, 2 years ago. Zach Burns was in the pit in front of me, and I, like, tried to start a conversation, and I chickened out, and I did not ask him anything else. But I mean, that's just so cool to me to, like, be able to share that moment with someone that's like, maybe me one day, you know, they may be in that pit with me. It's fucking cool. Like, there's always room for growth, and no matter what you're doing, and if you stick to it and you have the perseverance and the motivation to do it, like, it's going to happen for you. Yeah.
I think the biggest thing I've learned is consistency will power through everything. Like, even like, it was about a different subject, but I was talking to my friend, and I was doing something, and I was like, I don't know, man, I'm just, like, not motivated to do it anymore. And he's like, okay. He was like, do it anyways. And I was like, what do you know, but I don't feel like doing it. It's like, so do it. And he's like, you're not motivated now. I was like, but if you keep doing it, I was like, when your motivation fails, your discipline will carry you through until you pick it back up again. And in the moments where I start feeling shitty and stop doing it, I ended up regretting that I should have just powered through it, kind of thing. Because of the times that I've just stayed consistent, it's even on times where I felt like I wasn't doing good, there was still progress that was made, even while that motivation was gone. Yeah. But consistency will carry you through most things, even if you, quote unquote, suck, like, at what you're doing. Like, if you keep doing it, you will figure it out. And that's one thing that sometimes I'll have a hard time looking at. Being able to see, because another friend, what he told me was, like, sometimes you're too close to the picture to, like, you don't ever take time to stand back and realize, like, oh, like, you have learned quite a bit. And he was asking me about stuff that I was doing now. He's like, oh, how do you do this? And I was like, oh, you do this and that. And he's like, well, how do you do this? And he's like, yeah, like, the average person doesn't know how to do that. And I'm like, you're right. And then I thought about it, I was like, yeah, I didn't know how to do that, like, you know, a year ago or a few months ago, whatever. But yeah, if you just keep trying it, you poke at it, be wrong about it, fuck it up, like, it's gonna lead to, like, better results for you. And again, I think it's just creatively, it keeps pushing you to, like, make cooler things. Yeah, and making sure that you push through those times that don't feel fun anymore too. Yeah. Like, I have no concept of time, so this is maybe 2 weeks ago, maybe a month ago, I have no idea. But I shot Boys Like Girls. Oh. Saw Girlfriend there. Yeah. Shot Boys Like Girls, and then I shot a show directly after that, and then another show directly after that. And I had a really bad time at Boys Like Girls. I'm not going to tell you why, because it's not worth it. But had a really bad time. I was not happy with my photos, looking in the camera, whatever. Like, I just got in a really shitty mood and felt really crappy about the whole situation. Got home, edited, loved the photos, felt stupid. Go to the next show. I was still kind of in a crummy mood.
Same thing happened. Wasn't happy with my photos. Got home. Some of my favorite photos I've ever taken. It was Unity. That's what it was.
Okay.
Some of my favorite photos I've ever taken. But I still like just had a bad time. It was almost like I was getting complacent with it, like because I was doing it so much that it just didn't feel fun. And then I shot Stick to Your Guns by myself. I didn't have anybody else to talk to. I was just kind of like in my own zone, doing my own thing. Favorite show that I've ever shot ever. Like literally ever. So much fun. Like Comeback Kid, Orthodox. I'm trying to remember the main opener. I don't remember their name. All of them, all over the stage, on the barricade, in the crowd, like whole time. Like just the interaction with the crowd. Like they kept saying they're like, we're gonna come back and there's not gonna be a barricade. Like like it's just it was so sick. Like just getting to be a part of that. And I barely knew any of their songs. I knew like maybe 2 songs from each band, but they just made you want to fucking be there. And that's just, it was like a reset for me. Like, and I haven't had a bad day since. I probably will again, but it was just sick. Like, it's crazy if it's going to feel like work eventually. If you're doing it every fucking day, it's going to feel like work, and you're going to have to power through it, and then you'll realize, like, shit, like, I really fucking love this. You know?
That's the exact, that's the exact thing you just described, where it's like, oh, you stayed 2 days where, like, you know, or 2, like, events where it didn't feel, like, good, but you did your still same routines. Like, I'm still gonna edit these photos. Didn't like quit it. Cause I'll get in and I've fallen into the spots where I'm like, oh, it doesn't feel like I should be doing this, and I stop. And it takes one time, I do it again, and I'm like, why the fuck did I stop at all? So now, like, I am super dedicated. It's like, no, I gotta keep doing this. You know what I mean? Like, even today, like, we had like a bunch of stuff that I was doing like this week, and then yesterday, like, I had a full day, and I was like, you know, I need to schedule another one, like, and get this ball rolling. So I'm really happy that you decided to come by, and it's just what you need. Like, you need to push through those moments, and there you realize, like, that it's worth it. You know what I mean? Until it's not. You know, if it's not, you know what I mean? It's always good to be open to, like, the idea of progress. If you want to do something else, you can do something else. But if you really want to get good at whatever you're doing, like, you're gonna have to just keep doing it.
Yeah, well, and it's weird, especially with concerts, because you get such a high from being at a concert. So when you're doing it all the time, when you're not at a concert, it feels really fucking low. Like, when I'm not,
I didn't even think about it that way.
It's crazy. Like, if I have a day off from a show, like, it's nice to have a day off, but, like, I still wish I was at a show. Like, Alex is at Highway 30 right now, and I'm not a big country fan, but she has an extra ticket, and she was like, hey, you want to come hang out? I just shot at Tarleton for 3 days. I shot a concert the day before I did that, and I shot something this morning. I haven't edited any of it. I'm exhausted. That's why I have a coffee. Like, I was falling asleep on the way over here, and I'm like, I could go. Like, it's so weird. Like, I genuinely feel my happiest when I'm at a concert. And it's even weirder going just, like, as a participant rather than shooting, because the whole time I'm like, oh, that would have been a cool shot. But yeah, I don't know. It's weird. I think that's why I fill my schedule up the way that I do, because I have tomorrow off, and then I'm booked until next Monday. Like, I have so much shit. I know. It's fun, though. Like, I genuinely enjoy it. And, I mean, some people will say, like, oh, you don't have to edit, like, immediately after the show or whatever, but if I don't, the fun's gone. Like, I'll look at it, and then it's work. It'll sit there, and I'm like, okay, now I have to push myself to do this. Like, I'm still on the adrenaline high when I get home after a show. I'm like, I'll stay up till 5 as long as I can get it done and get to see the end result and post it immediately, whatever. Like, done, next show.
And I feel like that's, I mean, just from, like, an outside perspective, that seems like the easiest way to capture the actual momentum and energy from that show that you still have. Let's put it into this right now. When, you wait a day, that highs come down from that show, and I'm like, okay, like, you can still do it, obviously. But yeah, I get the feeling of, like, oh, I'm just here. Like, one thing, so we were at Plus Fest, like, last weekend, at Rubber Gloves. So it was, like, all these, like, math rock bands for 2 days.
Yeah.
And we weren't throwing the show. We were just there as a vendor, and I was like, it was my first time gonna try to do like, media coverage for something, create content during the day. But my idea was like, oh, I want to make it and post it same day. So I want to make stuff and just post it, like, videos, and put them out the same day. So I, like, would go and shoot stuff and, like, talk to people and interview people and do this and that, and then immediately go down, sit down and, like, edit some stuff in the, trial and error stuff, because it's my first time trying it at an actual show, and then putting it out. I'm like, that was fun as fuck. Like to be able to like to put together something and someone, and again, what you were talking about, like sometimes shooting like crowd shots and stuff like that. So we were just doing like little bits and stuff like that with like to interact with like the crowd. So then like people would see themselves like in videos and they really like that.
Oh my God,
like, it's like, oh, okay, cool. Hey, that's me. Like this and that. And then like they're sharing and stuff like that. But that was really cool. And then like the next day that I shot it, more people saw the clips from the first day. So then I already knew who I was. So then they wanted to like talk to me and do stuff and do stuff with us. But it's I really like that. I'm like, oh, that's really cool to get my hands on something right away and then put it out immediately. You know what I mean?
That was my favorite thing about Monster Mosh is typically with like third string festivals, they're very on top of like making posts in real time, like, and keeping you up to date with what's going on when it's happening. And so after every show, I would like run back to our little office. All of us would run back to our little office and edit a couple things, send them to Mike. Mike would post. Yeah. Like he posted like 4 or 5 times a day. But I loved like being able to go look at it and be like, that's fucking sick. Yeah. And then everybody else getting to see it. Like there were a couple girls that were up on the barricade. I think it was day 2. And Mike had posted a photo that I took of them on Instagram. And so I like went and found them like, hey, you guys are on our Instagram. And they're like, holy shit. Yeah. But that's just so cool. Like the excitement of like seeing yourself is really fucking cool.
You become a part of like the show, which you feel like you are, but then seeing it, it's like, oh, I am. Like I'm here. Like it exists, you know, and it just creates that moment where you're a part of the event that you're attending. You're not just like watching like what the event is. You're now in it. You know what I mean? Like you're actually in it. It makes it more personal. It makes you want to go to more stuff, you know. As like starting with like doing promotion and doing events and stuff like that, that's the one thing I've been trying to figure out. It's like figuring out and different ways to do that to make it exciting for people to go to shows, because I know how much fun I have going to just any sort of random show. There was a time where I was like buying random tickets to stuff every week, and I was just like, I just need to go see something, and I was seeing like a wide variety of stuff, but each one of those shows, like I had fun in all these, like, but it's how to translate that to people who aren't in the scene already, and like figuring out like how to convince them to be like, you should just go out and see a show. And it's a really cool culture. Like this is the second time I'm bringing this guy up, but there's a guy named Zach, and he's my friend. He goes to more shows than anybody I know. Like there was, I think one time he was like, yeah, like when I met him, he was like, yeah, like I'm going. I met him at one of our shows, but he's like, yeah, I'm going to this show tomorrow and then this one the next day. And he's like, yeah, it'll be 16 shows in a row that I'm going to, and I'm like, this will be the 16th show. I'm like, that's what? Crazy. And he's like, it's showing me this thing, and then it's a wide variety of music, and it's just, I mean, it's someone who loves just music, you know, in general. But I was like, that's so cool, you know what I mean? But even like, you don't have to go like that hard into it. But I think if most people take a little bit out of their time just to be like, hey, instead of just going out to the regular bar, go see a show, go see some music. And I don't know, it's just a great experience in my eyes.
It's so weird to me that there are people on this earth that like do not enjoy music. So like the marketing director of Tarleton that hired me to shoot for them this weekend, he was like, yeah, you know, so like what kind of bands have you shot before? And I'm naming people and people that people know, like just like bands that people know, because I didn't want to name ones that he didn't know any of them. And I'm like, okay, he's like, yeah, I'm not really a music person. And I literally, music is my entire life. Like, I could never.
Does not compute.
That's so crazy to me. Like, there's literally people on this earth that's just, like, go about life and do not enjoy music, and that is so insane.
I had a manager at an old job that I had, and he was one of those who didn't like music. And, like, we were talking to him, and he's, like, this older guy. And I was like, so when you're driving, what do you listen to? He's like, the road. And I'm like, that's awful.
So sad.
I was like,
oh my God.
Sucks. That doesn't make sense to me. And even anybody outside of like who doesn't see like that music scene, it's wild to me, because I think about if I didn't have it like at this very moment, I always wonder, I'm like, what the hell would I be doing? Like at all? Like even like if I because if I wasn't actually in it, like I'd still be going to shows, like, and it's like, what if I didn't have that? But not listening to music, like not having a favorite artist, like is nuts to me. Like there's got to be someone that just hits you. I don't care who it is. I go, but there's something out there for you. And those people who don't listen to music, I was like, it's you. I want to know what that is for you, like, because there's something for everybody, and especially nowadays that there's so much fucking music around, you will find what you like. And yeah, I just think more people need to be open to that. It's not a radical concept, but sometimes, like, to some people you talk to, it feels like that for them.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I'm just not super big into music, you know. And yeah, after that, I'm just like, oh, like, we're probably not gonna interact well. Like,
No,
you know,
that's
like,
literally all I talk
because that's all
about.
I know. Yeah,
I will judge you on your music taste 100%. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm not proud of it, but I will. Like, I want to know what kind of music you listen to, and if we can talk about it, then I'll talk to you about it for fucking ever. Like, that's all I want to talk about. And it's so crazy to me because I started, like, when I started photography, I started in weddings, and I knew that it wasn't like what I wanted to do, but I knew that I enjoyed photography, and I ended up going to a concert in Graham, Texas. I don't even know where that is. It's very tiny. But they had like a food truck contest or whatever, and they had a concert, and I've again volunteered for the festival and snuck my camera in, and I like shot a concert for the first time, and I was like, oh, like, this is what I want to do. Like, this is fucking crazy.
Yeah.
It's just insane. Like, if I didn't have music, what the fuck would I be doing? Like, I literally don't know.
It's that idea is radical to me when I think about it around, because I'm like, I don't know, like, how it would just feel like a giant empty spot, and I'm just like, what the hell do other people fill this with? Like, it's nuts.
Honestly, like, what are you passionate about?
Yeah.
If you have nothing for music, that's
because, like, even if you're doing something, like, even if you have other passions, let's say you're woodworking. I was like, you just listen to the saw, like, while you're doing shit. Like, it's like, what are you doing?
That's
like,
crazy.
Like, doing stuff. Like, just raw dogging life and not fucking, like, listening to anything. Like, I always have to put something on when I'm doing anything. Like,
Yeah.
it's just like, it's got to be something. But yeah, that is incredible. I don't know. Super weird shift here. I just thought about it, but we keep mentioning, like, sneaking in cameras. So the whole thing about not having, like, detachable, is it really just because of, like, the giant ads ones that people, like, bring in? Like, I was talking to Michael about it, but I was just like, I don't know what the deal is with that, like, not being able to bring, especially, like, because now, like for example, like, the ones we use for the podcast, that's technically a detachable lens, but the camera is so small, like, but I wouldn't be able to bring that into anything.
Yeah, I think it's like the professional aspect of it. Like, a lot of them are worried that you're going to take photos and, like, try to sell them and make profit or whatever it may be. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of venues in Deep Ellum that don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Like, the smaller ones, like Dada, 3 Links, they don't give a shit. You can shoot whoever you want. I went and shot Slow Joy for the first time ever, and it did not tell him that I was there shooting, and I've shot him 3 times since. So, like, I don't know. It's just one of those things. Like, you have to want to do it.
Yeah.
But if you start small, it's a lot easier. I genuinely don't. I don't mind there being, like, those kind of rules, just because if it comes to, like, a photo pit and you don't know what to do in a photo pit, you can fuck everyone else over. Like,
that's very true.
I've only been to a couple shows because I'm not a huge fan, but there was one that I went to. There was this kid. It was his first time ever shooting a concert, and he stood in the middle of the walkway with his head down, looking at the camera the whole time, and I was like, I will, like, truck you. I will run you over. Like, I got a job to do. You got to get out of the way.
Yeah.
And, like, things like that. Like, it's always going to be a learning process, and you've got to have experience with it, and doing it a couple times, like, you'll figure it out. But, like, it's the people that don't know what they're doing, that they're trying to keep out, basically.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I mean, again, if you start small, there's tons and tons of places that will let you bring your camera in. Tulips let you do it. If it's a band that isn't really all that well known, they don't give a shit. But a lot of times it's going to be management too for bands.
Yeah, because that's actually the first time I ran into that was at Tulips, and we were shooting. My friend Bird and I were walking into. They were doing video, and they were like, "Hey, would you mind holding the second camera?" And I'm like, "Sure." And we were running late, kind of not late to the show. They ended up starting early, but we were shooting Fever Cold, and we just wanted to, like, shoot the whole set. And we got there, and as soon as we got there, like, they stopped. It's like, "Oh, did you get permission from the tour?" And I'm like, "Oh, we're not shooting the tour. Like, we're just shooting the opening band." And yes, we got permission from them. And he's like, "Okay, so we got to get you a photo pass." And they did, like, all this, but I'm like, I'm completely ignorant to the entire process, but now with, like, us, like, I've shot there before, but I know now, oh, okay, that's the process. But that's, like, one of those, like, yeah, you're gonna hit a speed bump and you would just figure it out. Like instead of but yeah, it's figuring out. Like I even asked. I think I asked Michael about it because I'm like, how do you like the whole publication thing and being able to shoot like other shows? I go, what do you need for that? You know, kind of thing, or what is the expectation? And he was helpful. Like he was like letting me know, but I think it would have been weird in that case if someone was like, oh, well, you know, you need to figure that part out because that's not something you can really ask. You know what I mean? And it's kind of hard to get a hold of even like venues and stuff like that because when I was trying it. I forgot what venue I tried it, but they were small, so they weren't even like paying attention to that shit. They didn't even care. Like I think I brought my camera in anyways, and I was like, oh, okay, nobody even fucking check. Because I asked like one person in line, I was like, can I bring my camera in? And he's like, I don't care.
Yeah,
I, like, okay.
I mean, with the passes, there's so many variables because like you could be given an email that says that you have pit access for the first 3 songs for all bands, and then you get there and it's not like that. Like Michael, the other day we were at the Motionless in White concert, and we shot Alpha Wolf, no problems, and then all of a sudden Knocked Loose went on. There were tons of crowd surfers. They doubled security in the photo pit, and like it was crazy. And so the venue decided you can only shoot for the band that you know got you in. So I couldn't go in the photo pit for Motionless in White because I got in with Knocked Loose, so I could only go in to shoot Knocked Loose in the pit, and I had to shoot from the back of the house for the rest of the time. So like you never fucking know. Like you have to be prepared to kind of go with the flow. There's been a couple times that I've had access for something and access has changed when I've gotten to the venue. So, I mean, you may have a fancy pass, but it doesn't mean shit sometimes. So, I mean, it really all just depends. Or, I mean, shit, like, even at some, like, big festivals that I've been to, like, So What, you'll have security guards kicking out the photographers that work for the festival because they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Like it's a shit show, honestly. So I mean, if you get in, awesome. If you have a pass, awesome. But you've really just got to kind of go with the flow.
Be ready for everything. Well, it looks like you've been like taking all those swings and being able to like kind of roll with those punches and been putting out some awesome things. Like I said, like it's really cool to see. Again, like for me, in my perspective, I just saw it. The ramp up to it and what you're doing now is amazing, and even like starting your own publication is awesome. Just to be able to shoot more, like that's it's like the want just to be able to shoot more, and that makes it even. I don't know, just more. It hypes me more up because it's like, oh, it's just because you want to do it more. I'm like, that's so cool to see someone with that type of drive. And that's like, again, that's like when you think about like people that if you really want to do something, those are the people that you need to have around you because like you see them, you know, seeing you do that and working out hard is like, oh, okay, cool, I can put in the same type of work ethic kind of thing. And I think you had kind of like a moment like that like recently where you were in the pit with like all these like photographers that you know helped you out and now being right alongside them and I feel like earning that spot must feel amazing. So I'm super excited to see everything that you're working on. Thank you so much for coming by today. I really appreciate it. And like super excited. Let us know when the publication starts. We'll start promoting that shit. And anything you need, like you're always welcome back to. Thank you again for wearing a costume.
I tried my best. I was gonna wear a banana costume, but those things are really expensive. For like no reason. So
I was like, I paid like $80 for this, and I'm like, and wear it once. I'm like, oh gosh. I never like I literally all my costumes ever are like with stuff that I have in the closet. And I'm just like, I'll put this together and I'll figure something out. I never spend any more than like $10 on a costume.
Same.
But I'm like, all right, we'll do it this year. But again, thank you for stopping by. This has been episode 88 with Bailey. With your Instagram handle is
AShotofBaileys photo.
AShotofBaileys photo, and then you're shooting with Spliced. And your new. Do you have a name for your publication yet?
It's HeavyPour. It's supposed to be a play on words, like for AShotofBaileys. So we're covering heavy music.
I like that.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Okay. HeavyPour. Awesome. And definitely follow everything that Bailey's got going on. She's shooting some cool stuff. Share her stuff. Go to a show. You might be in one of the pictures that she takes. But thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. We will see you next time.